Showtime. Here we are.
Afternoon, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Existential Cuppa. Got the aircon on at better time today, so it's not so bad.
No, it's quite comfortable in here. It's lovely.
Yeah. So we're going to take on board one of the questions that was sent our way last week about what are we actually in control of? And we thought we'd put that in the context of fear, control, and personal freedom because they're kind of all interrelated. And I think, you know, the idea that most people have is that if they're in control, they have personal freedom.
Yes.
And so when we're feeling out of control and disempowered, we're kind of losing our personal freedom. And fear has a really great way of pushing us right out of the present moment.
Control is an illusion anyway, so it's kind of all mixed up. It's all a bit weird.
It is. So that's why we thought we'd bring it all together. So welcome if you're joining us live. Just maybe drop your name in the comments, say g'day, tell us where you're tuning in from. And, please put your comments and your questions in too so that we can engage in this as a conversation.
I'll put my glasses on so I can read them.
Yeah, I will try to read them from here. But before we launch right into it, shall I do our welcome, our acknowledgement?
Indeed, I think so.
Yes, our normal start to the meeting. So I just take a few moments now to pay honour and respect to the elders, past, present, and emerging, and to give my deepest gratitude and heartfelt thanks to the traditional owners of this land, the Larrakia people, for their generous sharing of this beautiful country that I live and work on, for the sharing of the light, the people, the animals and the trees, the birds, all the life here, and the sea that embraces us. And I seek to do spirit work here that's in harmony and perfect alignment with the existing deep spiritual connection of this place, for the healing and enlightenment of all. Thank you. So now I'm feeling really grounded again. I love that. Connecting to and honouring the place that you live. It's just such a grounding thing to do, which is a really good counterpoint to being in fear.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. It's a very good counterpoint.
Yeah. So fear has been a recurring theme for us this year. Yes. And it's been a recurring theme on Friday afternoons on the Existential Cuppa.
It has been.
And I guess it's just the nature of the beast of the early 2020s.
Yes, and I think all of Australia understands fear now.
All of the world, really.
Yes. Well, yes, that's true. All of the world does, you know, and I think that often is what makes it more potent because everybody's feeling it. So the energy is more out there. It's not just pockets of people, but it's actually all over the world, and it's affecting how we all function. Yeah. It's making everything that much harder to do. And it means that we're not in the present moment. We're, you know, moving out into the future in the hope that we can somehow control that.
Yeah. And interestingly, we were talking before we started about the idea of, you know, when you're doing shadow work, you know, the things that are buried deep inside that we don't want to look at, often when it's time, they rise to the surface. So it's really interesting that the collective consciousness at the moment, the uppermost thing is fear. It is well and truly time for humanity in its current place of evolution to work with fear, on an individual level and on a collective level so that we can learn the skill of stepping out of fear and into personal freedom.
Yeah, and not being afraid of what, if we let go of the fear which we associate with control, if we let go of that, it then allows us to not need to manage or control what is going to happen or how it's going to happen. We can just allow for it to happen. We can flow, which I think most people don't do. And I think from a female perspective, feminine energy is all about flow. You know, it's all about allowing things to happen and then, you know, dealing with those things as they happen rather than worrying about what might happen or what might not happen. And we all use so much energy when we're fearful. so much more nutrition. We use so much more effort just to function in our day, which is not great.
So I wanted to have a look at the concept of control. I mean, what is control? What happens when we're not in control? What does it mean to be out of control? I think control is a contrived concept.
I agree. Yeah, it's a
Also,
constructed. Yeah.
That there is this idea that there is a certain way of being, and if we're not following that certain way of being, then we're out of control.
Yeah.
If we're not thinking along a similar line to other people, then we're out of control. If we aren't seeing our life move forward the way we anticipate and expect, then we're out of control. And all of these things generate fear.
Yes.
So, and that is the basic human instinctive response to the unknown.
Yes. I mean, I think fear is it's an important response. If we look at it from a survival perspective, if we go back to caveman times, fear is we needed fear to recognize danger. It was a way of recognizing danger. Fight, flight response or threat response is a biological
imperative,
representation of fear. It's a physical reaction. I think that it comes down to individually, it comes down to working out what you're fearful of, like where are your boundaries, what's pushing your buttons, why do you feel like you need to feel control. I mean, control itself ultimately is just an illusion. It doesn't really make any sense.
And this is kind of the pathway that Adair's question was leading us to last week was, well, what are we actually in control of?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really valid question. And speaking as a reformed control freak, well, nearly reformed control freak, that, if things weren't unfolding at exactly the right time, in exactly the right way, I did feel out of control. And often, there were things beyond my control that threw my world, my routine and my expectations off track. So really, this whole idea of control it's just a furphy. It's just an illusion.
It's a
because
construct.
Seriously, the only thing that we have control of is how we choose to respond to change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
and I think that's the only control really that we do
and
have.
even that's an illusion too, because ultimately if we're in flow, we don't need to react, we just need to be, and things will occur as they need to occur, so we don't actually need to do anything.
And it's not so much reaction, it's responding. We do have a choice about how we respond. And so it's not that instinctive instantaneous reaction, it's that ability to actually see or to see what's actually going on, to see the truth of the moment, to be using our skill of discernment to actually see the truth, which requires great dedication and great practice.
It does,
to be able to see through the illusion of fear, because fear is so strong. So how does that relate to personal freedom? It's a really good question.
It is a really good question.
You got any ideas out there?
Each individual person, I think it has their own individual answer to that question, to what that actually means.
And I'm wanting to leap in with my answer.
Go on.
All right. Well, my answer is that if you have the opportunity to be in control of your response, then that, in fact, is your personal freedom. And you can either choose to go into an expansive response in the vibration of love, which in itself would enhance your personal freedom even further, or you can choose to respond in the contracting vibration of fear and close yourself down and lose even more of your personal freedom. For me personally, that's where these choices come back to. That's where all of these meanings, all of these concepts tie back to personal freedom in the way we choose to interpret truth.
Okay.
Does that how does that sit?
No, I think that sits well.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the same as how I see it, but I do think that it is a really good way to describe this situation and to make the differentiation between the fear and control. I think that's a really good way of doing it. I think for me, I'm much more loose. I'm less structured. For me, it's about flow. If we're in flow, we don't need fear. Flow allows us to be in the present moment. It allows for us, so practicing present moment for me actually negates fear, and it lessens the need for control. And I think throughout our entire life, no matter what space we're in or what point within our life we're in, our capacity to learn from those experiences is the really important thing. And it always just comes back to trust. For me, it always comes back to just trusting yourself to know and that you're in flow and that you don't need to be controlling flow. I often will say to my patients, think of yourself lying in a river, lying on a lilo floating down the river, and you're in flow. And sometimes there are eddies, and sometimes there are rapids, and sometimes there is deep water, and sometimes you fall off and you've got to get yourself back on. And, sometimes you park over on the bank and, have a bit of a walk around and then go back on. It doesn't really matter how it works. It's more important that each individual person knows how it works for them. I don't think there's any one big construct of anything. And I think the interpretation of it is a very personal thing too.
Absolutely. And I love your illustration of being on a river, and also the implication there that if you're in flow, fear can't exist.
No.
As soon as fear is in your world, you are no longer in flow.
Yeah.
So it is actually, flow is the same thing as being in the now.
Yeah.
It's being in the present, just completely present with the moment.
And being in the present moment, I think, like you said about personal freedom, being in the present moment and recognizing that within the present moment there is no fear, because that's a future thing. The freedom we get from recognizing that, the fact that our life becomes simpler by staying in the present moment. And so I think, I spend a lot of time practicing present moment because it gives us that capacity to be free, then to, create or manifest and to master other aspects of ourselves, and to bring all of that into the flow. It's already there, but to, I suppose, bring it into our conscious mind so that we are able to recognize all the values and all those things that we can offer and do, wherever we are and whatever we're doing.
Absolutely.
And value that, see the importance and the value of all of that. I think that's a really important thing.
And I think all of these are perfectly valid. And we all deserve to feel that. But a part of me sitting here saying, so people who are listening are going, yeah, these are really great abstract concepts. What does that actually mean when I'm sitting in the middle of it? And this is the thing. We can talk about these abstract concepts, but the actual body felt experience of what it's like to recognize fear as an illusion,
I think that's the first step.
Is the key.
Yeah, I think that's the very first step.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard to do.
And when we're in the drama of it all, it is really hard to recognize the fear in amongst all the other things. But that is, in fact, the first step. But when we're feeling the fear, we're not in it. But if we go one step further back, if we're feeling the fear, we're not actually in the present moment.
That's right.
And so we need to practice coming back into the present moment. And how I do that is I sit, I breathe, and I bring my mind and my body back together. I reconnect everything back together, and not just from the point of view of my intellectual mind, but my heart mind, my spiritual mind, my physical, everything. I'm visualizing it coming back together as I breathe back into my body, and I can feel my body, and I can feel my bottom sitting on the seat. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can feel my clothes on me. Bringing myself back to that present moment then allows for that awakening or that awareness that we can step outside of the drama of it all and recognize, I was feeling fear there. And that's okay. It's totally okay to feel everything because, we have all these things. So if we start going, we shouldn't be doing that, we shouldn't be doing that, we're actually just creating more resistance and more stress in our body, which we don't want to do. We're actually trying to reduce that down. We're trying to feel like we have the capacity to actually manage or moderate our life the way that we need to. And I'm very big on the middle way. I'm very big on, moderation is the key here, rather than extreme things to bring you back into the present moment. And so breath is a really easy, really cheap, really quick, really simple thing.
And everybody's got one.
Indeed. Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have talked about breath connection before as a beautiful way to soothe the nervous system and to bring you back into the present moment. And it's a beautiful way to consciously connect with that subconscious part that's doing the I'm going to get you out of trouble as fast as I can. I did have a point to make and it's just completely gone out of my head.
Well, it just occurred to me when you were talking then that, for everybody in every situation, the approach that they will take will be different. So for me, breath works. I think for each individual person, they need to find their means of bringing themselves back into the present moment. For some people, it's doing the dishes, or for some people, it's focusing their attention elsewhere. Meditation is a way of bringing the body back. Yoga is a way of bringing us back into the present moment. That's the stepping, that's the beginning. And then the next step then is that when we're in the present moment, it's actually really easy to see that we're in the drama. And so we can actually step out of the drama and acknowledge and honor that fear that we're feeling, or that need for control that we're feeling, because these patterns that have evolved over our lifetime are affecting how we respond to the environmental things that are going on. And I think that has quite a profound effect on how we manage. And that, that brings in the whole thing of not just traumas within this life, but past traumas and genetic memory and, genetic trauma and all this kind of stuff.
Collective trauma.
Yeah, we're coming into, an awareness about these things that gives us more ability to go, oh, okay, well, this is why I react this way. This is why I formed this belief. Oh, I've got this belief and I didn't even know I had it, and all of this kind of stuff. And it gives us back our ability to moderate and to adjust and to recognize our true self.
So I think, what you said right at the beginning there was really key about us developing the skill of noticing first.
Yes.
That's, when we don't notice it that we stay stuck in the pattern. It's when we start noticing the thoughts, the behaviors, the immediate reactions, the body felt sensations that trigger a particular mode of responding. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. And not even that. It's habitual ways of being. Sometimes we get stuck in patterns of following, like having an argument with your partner, for instance. They might say a particular word or a phrase or something that sparks a particular reaction in you and makes you respond, or you choose, mostly unconsciously, to react to whatever the trigger word or phrase or tone of voice or non-compliance or non-action, whatever it is, in a particular way. And it's a repeating pattern. It's a pattern that you've learned. Okay, this person gives me this input, which means I give them this output. And the key is to actually notice.
Yeah.
When this happens, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it always makes me feel like this. I don't like how this feels. I'd rather feel like this.
I need to change it.
So what has to change for me to get from here to here?
Yeah.
And
it's
then
always,
you step it back.
It's always I.
That's right. It don't change the partner, change you. It's the way you are choosing to react to whatever the stimulus is, whether it's your partner, whether it's a workplace, whether it's road rage, whatever it is. The only thing that you have control of is your response to that and your ability to develop the capacity to change.
Yeah, to observe, I think.
Yeah, it's really that capacity building. Yeah.
We have to observe the change. We have to observe. We have to be
First
observant.
Of all, notice it.
Yeah, notice and then be observant, because with the noticing, we move back into present moment with and then observe how we're responding, because how we're responding often is, like you say, is subconscious.
Yeah.
But this is not complex, because if we break it right down to the beginnings, it's about feeling. It's about, how do we feel about this? What is the right decision to make? And often it's not that we need to go, it's always my fault, or it's always this, or it's always that.
No.
It's just about going, okay, well, this is what it is. How do we deal with it? What are we going to do? And it doesn't have to be complex or a complex situation to do that, when we can just do that all of the time. It's just about being in that present. And I know I bang on about present moment, but it saves us so much drama when we are in the present moment, and we have the capacity to make change, in a much more gentler way.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes with a lot of this stuff, it gets too complicated. There are too many things you have to remember. There are too many steps. And we're already remembering far too many PIN numbers. Okay. So how are we going to remember all of this? We just have to feel how it feels. And if it feels like it's the right thing to do, then it is the right thing to do at this moment in time. There are no wrong decisions, because at that moment in time, when you decided to make that decision about whatever it was, at that moment, that was the right moment. That was in that present moment, that was the right decision to make. So how can we judge ourselves? Why do we then look back and reflect poorly on the choices that we've made, when really we should be looking back going, oh, well, I learned from that. I don't need to do it again.
Absolutely. And that's a conversation for another day about releasing judgment. But focusing on the where do we have control, I think, the very potent first step is, as Margaret said, the observing. And the very next step from that is to take a breath.
Yes, I agree.
You need to give yourself space. So, this doesn't happen overnight. It is a skill, because we like to run on convenience and ease, which is often going into our habitual patterns.
Yeah.
So it does take a really clear decision to make that change.
Well, I think the way that humans survive, though, is on their patterns.
Yes, exactly.
We
it's
develop
a survival pattern.
we develop patterns, though. So
interesting you say that,
because we need to function. We have routine, which creates patterns. We do this right from when babies are born. We establish patterns for them, for them to get into a routine and all of that. This is something that humans do organically as a way of survival, as a way of, a means of survival.
But what we're aiming for here, I think at this point in our history, humanity is really at a tipping point. It's at a tipping point of evolution, of staying in our instinctive survival pattern, or stepping up to be something more than just surviving.
Yeah, no, I agree with you at that point.
Yeah,
at that level.
I
think from a survival point of view, absolutely. I think we need to change. We need to embrace.
So and this is about that.
And I actually think that comes back to trust.
And I think it comes back to sovereignty.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Trust. I think trust and sovereignty
they're interlinked.
They're absolutely interlinked. I don't think you can have one without the other, because, trust initiates or develop, aids in the production or the awareness of sovereignty, and sovereignty, feeds on the trust. So it's, there is no chicken and egg here. They're the same, or they're
it's like yin and yang, isn't it?
It is. It's more yin and yang.
When you have that trust, judgment goes out the window.
It does. That's right. Yeah.
So, everything is interlinked. But, this idea of being in control and being dictated to by fear.
Yes.
That's kind of, it's a control mechanism at the moment for the human animal. We want to actually become the human and to take individual control of ourselves. So really sovereignty is what we're talking about. Which requires independent thought, independent feeling, and independent movement.
Yeah, I agree.
And
it's a lovely way to put it.
Yeah, do I need to expand on that?
I don't know. Does she need to expand on that?
Let me know if I do. So it's not enough for us anymore to go, but that's how humanity survives. That's how human beings survive. It's a survival skill. That's not good enough anymore. You know, we are all being asked to step up into something different. So at an individual level, we're being asked to first observe and then make a change.
Indeed. And I think the collective.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then
from
at the collective,
the ripple effect. It's that old thing, think globally, act locally.
Yeah, is to move beyond the instinctive human animal to the feeling human.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Feelings will never lead us astray.
No.
That's how our higher self talks to us.
Yeah, a lot of what we talk about is how it feels in the body. If you're feeling it in the body, there's something that you need to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where the clarity comes in, being in touch with the body.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is interesting how the evolution of all of this, all these thought storms are coming together with what's going on environmentally. It's almost, it is universal. We're being pushed to let go or drop off or clear out all of these old ways and embrace a new way of being in a way that is positive and productive.
So, I mean, a lot of what we're talking about today is actually shadow work.
Yes.
So, it is delving into those areas of our individual selves that are a little bit dark and a little bit scary because we've pushed stuff down there that we don't want to deal with. And often when we bring the light of truth down into the shadows, what we find is really powerful and transformative.
Exciting.
And, it's the idea of fear that has stopped us from tapping into this incredible wellspring of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's a similar thing that's happening at the collective level. At the collective level at the moment, fear has been brought right to the surface for the human animal to deal with.
Yeah.
This is our transformative moment as a collective to move beyond the human animal instinctive response or reaction to fear and to find, well, how does the feeling human choose to respond collectively to this idea of fear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think honouring fear, I always see emotions like children, Mummy, I need a drink. Here's a drink. And they go, or they go off and play or do something else. And I think emotions in lots of ways are the same. So rather than beating ourselves up about the fact that we feel fear, I think we should just be reveling in the fact that we can feel these emotions, honouring them and letting them know that we don't need them anymore, that we're okay.
One of the things that I really like about fear is, it's the flip side of excitement.
Yeah.
So at a physiological level, the body doesn't actually know the difference between fear and excitement.
Yeah.
The physiological response is often very similar.
It is, yeah.
And so a part of our embracing the feeling of fear is to look for those opportunities where we can flip it.
Yeah.
Where it can actually be an expression of absolute excitement and exhilaration, that all of a sudden there's an opportunity instead of something being closed down and blocked off because of fear, because we're too scared to open that box, or we're too scared to look around that corner or turn the light on or turn the light off.
Yeah.
As the case may be, if you're scared of the dark. But, I think that's one of the next natural progressions after, seeing it and noticing it, taking a breath and giving yourself space, capacity to be able to make a choice, is to then think, well, is this actually a fear response, or am I actually really excited about the possibilities in front of me?
True.
True. And obviously we're not going to see that in everything that comes our way, but the more we choose to turn away from fear and look for a different response, the more open to or the more opportunities come.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The more we're able to manifest.
All of a sudden,
yeah,
this idea of universal flow and of being in flow is a body felt experience rather than something that we're striving to attain. It is something that you're actually present and enveloped in, and more
But we need to stay conscious.
Yeah, it's a conscious thing. Yeah.
So we must always stay conscious.
It gets easier.
Yeah, it does. Everything just gets easier. Things get simpler. Life is freer. That's the freedom.
More satisfying.
It is
satisfying and fulfilling.
And also to reflect back and recognize that was how we were then, and this is how we are now, is actually quite freeing as well. And going, it's all about the growth. It's all about us, experiencing each individual moment of each individual day, within our lives, with the people that we're with at any moment in time. And it brings a great deal of joy when we're in that moment, when we're present.
When we're actually experiencing the truth of the moment, as opposed to moving through in kind of a sleepwalk, engage in just a habitual pattern of this is how I do my life.
Yeah.
We're actually present in the moment going, this is my life.
Let's do something different.
Let's enjoy it.
Whatever that means for everybody. Yeah. Let's just do something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than doing the same thing every day and thinking you're making a difference if you're not happy, if you're not if you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah. The opportunity to change is always there.
Yeah. And to embrace the change too.
Yeah.
And I think fear helps us to get to that point where we get tired of it. We get fed up. We're worn out, and so we need to embrace the change. And we get to a point where fear pushes us in that direction. It pushes us off the cliff so we can fly. We do it anyway.
And the interesting thing about that is here's an opportunity to scare the pants off yourself by jumping off the cliff.
Yeah.
The next cliff that comes your way will be even bigger.
Yeah. But you can still do it.
But you'll fly further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So, you don't completely, it's not like we become fearless. It's recognizing fear for what it is. That phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. Well, it's a bit more than that. It's actually recognizing and honoring fear because it's a valuable teaching tool. But also acknowledging that, well, fear, you've kept me safe and that's great. Thank you very much. But I'm ready to be excited now.
You've got to where I am now. I need more.
I still keep coming back to what's the practical application of what we're talking about, particularly in the current environment where there is this huge level of fear, and it feels like the walls are closing in relation to certain choices that we have to make. So that this is a real in your face fear
I think
for a lot of people.
I think sitting with fear is a good thing to do. I think sitting with it.
So how do you do that?
Well, how I do it is I sit, I breathe. So I bring my mind and body back together at all levels, and I feel how it feels in my body. And from that point, then I ask the universe. If I can't reconcile that myself, I'll then hand it up to the universe and wait for an answer. But if I can reconcile it, I look for on the periphery of the fear, there is always joy. There's always something else that we haven't considered. There's always, and I often think fear is like a roadblock, or it's like one of those humps in the middle of the road. We have to slow down. We have to take a breath. We have to go, okay, I'm feeling fear.
Such
why
a
am I doing
beautiful
this?
analogy.
Yeah, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And it's like, I actually don't want to go down the rest of that road. There's too many humps. I'll turn and go somewhere else instead. So sometimes it can be a really valuable tool for us when we take that time to just sit with it. And I say that with all emotions, every emotion, not just the negative ones. If we sit with it, we really get to understand what it is for us, the importance of that for us. And that's the beauty or the benefit or the silver lining of all of our emotions, as far as I'm concerned, in that we have that opportunity to grow from experiencing those emotions. I see a lot of people who can't feel anything. And when they start to feel, it's like the whole world has opened up again.
Yeah.
It's like getting another sense back. And
well, it is.
yeah,
really.
so fear is not a, I don't think fear is a bad thing. I just think it can overwhelm us.
Yes.
But then so can our ego, you know, so can everything overwhelm us.
Yeah. Boredom.
Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things that we need to engage with at whatever we need to engage with. So however we do it at a personal level, and always remembering that, you know, when we're managing or we're processing our fear and we're growing from that and we're changing, we're actually, the ripple effect of that is we're having an impact on other people as well.
Absolutely.
And that's really, really important. And a lot of the things in our world are set up around fear-based belief structures. And it's really difficult to kind of meld or work your way through those structures when you need them, because it's all fear-based. It's all
that's the existing paradigm that we're in.
Yeah.
The existing paradigm is one that is built on control and fear is used as a tool of control. So by us recognizing that and choosing personal freedom or sovereignty or individual responsibility, however you want to put it, that's how we take back our control, right, for what it's worth. Let's just deal with the illusion for the moment, because otherwise it gets really really hard to talk about, and develop the skill within ourselves to recognize fear and to make choices. So, you know, for me, when I feel fear, I really feel it. Like, I feel my heart rate increasing. I feel my breath do this. I feel the adrenals. It literally feels like the adrenals are giving me a kick in the back. And, you know, that cold, clammy sweat thing that goes on when you're really feeling the fear. I allow myself to feel it, but not to be overwhelmed by it, and then to say, oh, I recognize this. I actually this is fear. I'm afraid. I'm really fearful of this decision because of what I think might happen. Okay, so deep breath, connect to the ground, really allow myself to feel grounded, become present, feel myself solid, and if necessary, sit in the root chakra. You know, the root chakra is the place to deal with fear. Really take my attention, my awareness, my energy down into the root chakra so that the physiological response can subside. And I can actually go, okay, right, I can breathe properly again. I can think clearly about what's going on.
You're in the present moment, aren't you?
I'm in the present moment. And sometimes I like to take it a little step further. So, you know, I will sit there in the comfort of the present moment and then take my attention to, right, that decision. No, the immediate fear response comes up. Okay, I'm actually going to do something about that because I don't like it and it's holding me back. I need to make this decision because I can see an outcome I want by making this decision, but I'm too scared to make the decision because of what might happen. You know? So that's where I pull in tapping. For me, tapping helps me really actually move that through the physiology of my body, move it through my nervous system to a place where I can feel at ease and actually look at the decision again and go, right, now without the absence of it's going to kill me if I do this, input from fear, I can make a better decision and feel comfortable about the decision because I see the outcome that I want. I see a possible consequence and another possible consequence and another possible consequence, but I'm prepared to live with those consequences, you know? So for me, I like to actually take physical control.
Sometimes we need
physical
to do that.
Input.
Sometimes we need to,
you know, it's not enough for me to actually just breathe and be in the moment. Sometimes I do need that additional tool, and that's perfectly fine. But the important thing is I'm not squashing down. I'm acknowledging I'm really feeling this and I can see how it's holding me back. But every time I go to make that choice, nope, it's still really present. So I need to actually work with that. And I think the tapping enables me to acknowledge the fear, to really feel it, really actually sink into the depths of what that fear actually feels like in the body, what the physiological response is, what the emotional response to that is. There's often a lot of tears come with this. But then to help my body release it, because we've spent a lifetime in the Western society, particularly as women, training ourselves to clamp our emotions down, to clamp those feelings down, and to focus on what other people are feeling.
Yeah, rather
so
than
tapping
what we need to.
is a very powerful way to deal with that. And there are a lot of other somatic techniques out there, but for me, that's my go-to tool at the moment.
I think that's great. I mean, exercise is another thing. You know, when they look at treating trauma, PTSD or any other form of trauma, you know, they talk about exercise, making sure that you're moving so that your body can process the information. So anything that allows your body to move, anything that gives you
the body
gives that release is highly beneficial at helping to resolve those things and getting us to that point where we feel okay about the decision that we want to make or have to make. And we feel, you know, I think when we feel that decision is the right decision to make, then it is the right decision to make. And how we get to that point is again a very personal thing, you know, whatever we need to do. You know, I hand up to the universe. Sometimes I'll go to the gym or I'll go for a walk, and the physical activity helps me to resolve the unresolved fear in relation to whatever I'm making a decision about. But sometimes all I need to do is hand it up to the universe because I trust implicitly 100%.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff I think is...
But that's also a skill that you've learned.
Yes.
You know, it's easy for you to say, I'll just hand it up to the universe. But in saying that, you've had many, many years of practice of developing that skill of trust.
Indeed.
And of how to actually work with the physiology of the feeling.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
I will say though, it isn't that difficult to hand it up to the trust, hand it up to the universe, because when you actually do hand it up, so when you visualize, you know, and initially I visualized popping it into a balloon or attaching a balloon to it and letting it float away. The relief that you felt about letting it go up there and knowing that there'll be an answer coming back, it's the forming of the memory of that relief that your body feels that makes it, the next time around, it makes it easier,
more powerful too.
Makes it easier, you know. And so it's practice. It's like riding a bike. It's practice. You know, all of these tools are practice. Tapping is practice. Everything is practice.
And the other key to that, handing it up to the universe and having trust, is to let go of the expectations. You know, it's not okay to hand stuff up to the universe and say, but it's only going to work properly if it comes out this way.
Or
you have to actually really let it go.
And I think handing up to universe is easier if you do trust. But again, trust grows with practice. Trust grows with you living in flow, with you listening to yourself and understanding, how does this feel? You know, is this the right thing for me to be doing right now? Just for now, I need to do this. You know, it's about honoring oneself, which in essence is about everything we talk about on the existential cuppa, because ultimately we have to honor ourselves to be able to do any of this stuff. It doesn't mean we don't fall off the horse and we need to get put back on. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that we need to keep practicing it all the time. And you're right, I have been doing this for years, but I keep falling off the horse.
Of course.
You know, I'm not a good horse rider.
If you put a saddle on, it's a bit easier. I found that out in my youth, in my young days.
So, but we all do. We all take 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. You know, it's okay. It's totally fine.
What it is, isn't it?
It is. It's actually okay for all of this to be the way that it is for you right now. It doesn't have to be any other way. It just has to be your way, and that you can honor it the way that you need to honor it and feel good about that.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing, I think. You know, fear is just another tool, another feeling, another way of, you know, managing our world. You know, or mastering our world. I like that word better than manage or control.
And I love the way you've connected fear and mastery. And
before we go, guys,
thank you.
Came to Linda's and I found this book, and it's a lovely, pretty little book, or magazine, I should say. And I discovered in the book when I was reading it, Oh, how do I make this work?
Yeah, I know.
This is Linda's article in the book, and it is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you.
It is really, really good, and it is well worth a read because it puts a lot of stuff into perspective, and it gives you the freedom to do, or the permission to do exactly how you feel you want to be or do.
Oh, thank you.
It's well worth reading.
Speechless. Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you.
That's a pleasure.
Well, I think that seems to be a nice end point.
It does, yes.
Yeah, I think we've wrapped our head around fear and control and personal freedom this afternoon quite well. And, you know, from some of the stuff that came up, perhaps trust is the next thing
I think so,
to talk about.
Mm.
So we'd love to know what you think. We'd love to know if you have questions about any of the things that we talked about today. Do you want us to talk about trust next time, or should we be looking at some other avenue?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. It's been a wonderful conversation.
It has.
As always. And I feel like, yeah, we've explored fear kind of nicely.
Yeah.
Both at the individual and the collective. So we're going to leave you with that.
Okay. We were in flow.
Yeah, we were in flow. Thank you so much if you joined us live. It's been a pleasure to have your company. And if you're catching up on the replay, we will come back through and answer any questions. So don't hesitate, pop them in, and we'll get back to you. Until next Friday.
See you later.
Have a great time. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.